You are listening to New Theory Radio.
Hello and welcome to another edition of New Theory Radio, here live on Talk Sauga 960 AM. My name is Nav Nanwa, I am your host, and this is the show where we theorize on all things current affairs, pop culture, and everyday life. Happy Diwali if you are celebrating. We're super excited to be live here on the station on this kind of gloomy Sunday evening, but sure to get better tomorrow. And we got a jam-packed show ahead of you for the next 2 hours. We are going to be welcoming to the show one really amazing individual, someone who is a cultural curator. She's actually the president of her own culture design firm called Willendorf, and she'll be joining me a little later on the show. Her name is Raji Aujla, and also joining us on the show is someone who's no stranger to Sauga 960 AM. She's pretty much been on the air all day today, and she decided to be the Iron Lady and join me on my show as well. It is from the Elemnt, which can be heard each and every Saturday. Gurjoat Gill is also on the show, and we are going to chat about a number of different topics. Number one, we are going to talk about sexism. Coming out of the federal election, there was a heinous act that took place where re-elected Liberal MP Catherine McKenna had her office vandalized with the C word, and it's sparking a lot of conversation around around sexism and the fact that it still exists in prominent industries, and this one being politics. And I wanted to get both Raji and Gurjoat's thoughts on this because it seems like we're going backwards as a society, and I'd love to get their thoughts as to why these acts are taking place and just their overall thoughts when it comes to this being reflected in other industries. And then we're also going to be talking about vulnerability on social media. You know, it's no secret that social media is this interesting tool that gets utilized for many different reasons. But one of the things that really resonates with me when it comes to social media is people's ability to be very vulnerable and to be very truthful and realistic on social media when it comes to things that they're dealing with or challenges that they're facing. And both Gurjoat and Raji have inspired me lately with some of their posts, and I wanted to get their thoughts on that. And then selfishly, I am a big Kanye West fan, or I think I was a big Kanye West fan, and he did drop his new album on Friday, Jesus is King, and it's quite the diversion from his normal catalog, and I just wanted to get both of their thoughts on the album because it's very polarizing, and I also wanted to use this show as an opportunity to speak on that because Kanye was one of my favorites, and now I feel like he's letting me down, but maybe he's not letting Raji or Gurjoat down, so we'll find out in a little bit. Then later on in the show, we're going to wrap things up. I'm going to welcome the host of No Offense here on Sauga 960 AM, which airs every day from 6 to 7 p.m. Mike Gentili will be calling in, and we are going to do a quick wrap-up of the federal election. As you know, we are officially in a liberal minority government, still led by Justin Trudeau, and wanted to get Mike's thoughts on the outcomes and just some of the other stories that have creeped up since Monday's election and some of the happenings, specifically when it comes to the Conservatives, the NDP, and the Green Party. All this and more on today's edition of New Theory Radio. We are going to take a quick commercial break, and then when we come back, we are going to be talking sexism with Raji and Gurjoat here on Talk Sauga 960 AM. And do I what?
Do you swing too? Is that what you're yelling at you?
I swing all the time.
I have the same problem. I think I got better at it.
And when I say swing, I mean swing in my chair.
Yeah,
we're back here on New Theory Radio on Talk Sauga 960 AM. My name is Nav Nanwa. I am your host, and this is the show where we theorize on all things current affairs, pop culture, and everyday life. And it's about that time that we start theorizing here on the show. And joining me to talk about some very interesting topics from the week, I have, I'll start with the person that's sitting in front of me. Like I mentioned earlier, she is a culture curator. You were like a fashion designer too, right?
I can't identify with being a fashion designer because I feel like that's like
offensive to the crowd.
Oh, is it? Oh, come
but
on.
I enjoyed fashion design. So I had 2 collections.
So like a part-time fashion designer.
It's not even that. Like, it's like,
Past life.
I have some time this year. I think I could pull out a collection. And I don't know. It's like my creativity feeds off of fashion.
Yeah, you're just like a super creative, which is why I wanted to have you on the show. And that's Raji Aujla here, president, right, of Willendorf.
That's right.
Am I saying it right?
Yeah, you are.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'll have to ask you about that name in a few moments. But hey, if you're once a fashion designer, I guess always a fashion designer.
You know what?
Or I'll stop mentioning it.
I feel like for such a long time, like I didn't like talking to people.
Yeah.
Like it was just like social anxiety or something.
Yeah.
And I would wear clothing and that would be kind of my way to communicate with people, like what I feel. So some days when am I allowed to swear?
No swearing.
Okay, thank you. So some days when I'm feeling like not awesome,
yeah.
I would be wearing like leather and moody clothing, and other days when life is great, I'd be wearing like summer dresses. So I felt like I communicated my moods through clothing.
That's cool.
And then when I did that first collection with Humble, I was living in India and I was working as a journalist.
Yeah.
And so it was so depressing, to be quite frank, that I used fashion as like, I don't know, a distraction.
As like an outlet almost.
As an outlet.
That's cool.
And it was really fun. And I wish I could do it more. It's just, it takes so much time.
Yeah.
So I have so much respect for fashion designers. It's really, really a challenging industry to be a part of.
We'll just call you a creative because you're pretty creative.
Yeah. My friends call me gangster sometimes.
Okay. Yeah, we call you gangster too.
No.
And then speaking of gangsters, we got another gangster in the building here.
No, I'm not a gangster.
Gill KG. The G in Gill KG stands for gangster though, right?
You could call it whatever you want. I'm not gonna object to it.
You know, every time you're on my show, you're gonna have to spit a couple rhymes, right?
No.
It's gonna happen.
I'm
later.
not down. I felt like you would ask, and then I forgot.
Yeah.
I felt like, you know what's actually funny?
What?
I felt like you would ask, so I was like, you know what? I looked through all my writing because I've been trying to.
You're a gangster for real.
She is. She's a legit gangster. Yeah.
No, I'm not a gangster. I looked through all of it. I was like, let me put some, because there's so many notes. I was like, let me put some to the top.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, actually, if you go on Gurjoat, and that's Gurjoat Gill from The Elemnt, which can be heard here on Sauga 960 every Saturday from 8 to 10?
Come on, bro. You were just calling me out, not listening to your show.
What do you mean?
You literally did off air.
Of course I listen.
It's 5 to 7
5
Saturday.
to 7. That was close. 2 hours, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, same
Same time.
But so Gurjoat is like a rhymer on Instagram. So she does a lot of rhymes on Instagram. And when I had her on my previous version of New Theory Radio, I had her spit some rhymes. So maybe we'll have her spit some rhymes later.
Like poems.
But she reps
that rhyme.
She reps
That's
Buffalo
amazing.
and Cleveland to the fullest. Like she's the one person I know that like loves border towns.
I mean, okay, let's not hate already. I don't really rep Cleveland that much. I'm from Cleveland, but I rep Buffalo more because Buffalo's a beautiful city.
I love Buffalo.
It's amazing, and I don't think a lot of people really know like everything Buffalo has to offer.
Buffalo has a dope hip hop scene right now.
And it's really close by. It's like right there across the border. You guys should go check it out.
Did you live in Buffalo?
Yeah, I lived there for like 5 years as well too, but I really enjoyed it. It really.
Well, the first time I met you, you were wearing like a Buffalo dad cap, and I was like, oh, okay, that's cool.
I was gonna go play basketball after that day. Thaman looked at me like, "What are you wearing? Why are you here?" Right? Because I came in like sweatpants and like a sweatshirt.
But it's also radio too.
That's what I figured.
Yeah,
and then,
yeah.
but I took off. It was hot in the room, so I took off my sweatshirt, and I had a cutoff on and like my sports bra, like ready to go play ball. And then Thaman, her instantaneous like reaction, I just saw it on her face because it like went over real quick.
Straight athleisure.
Yeah.
Swag.
Honestly, I was gonna wear like a cutoff shirt today with Easy E on the front.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, like you should wear something more grown up.
Well, there's a photo shoot going on right now. So.
Yeah, if you're clicking in the background, that's colorblind photography. My little brother taking photos, stealing my memory card. But thank you both, ladies, for joining me here on New Theory Radio. A couple of interesting things to talk about. We'll start with the first topic. Actually, are you guys like me, like very happy that the election is over? Because I thought the election was really bad.
Yeah, it was a stressful election.
Yeah.
I wasn't really stressed. I was more hopeful.
Yeah.
And I'm more of a look at it the positive side kind of person.
Coming out of it, are you still hopeful?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah. I feel like we got like a better. Sorry, Reggie, I'm gonna fix your mic. I feel like we got a better outcome than what I thought we were gonna get.
The thing is, there's big outcomes and there's little outcomes, right?
Yeah.
And if you do focus on the little outcomes, sometimes like they can be meaningful. So, for example, like in my household, it's always been, our vote has always been like towards liberal, you know, and it's kind of that mentality that has gone on in so many different countries.
For most first generation families, yeah.
Yeah, it goes. I grew up with being told who to vote for, you know, and I was kind of like, all right, that's where your loyalties lies. That's where it's going to change, right? And it's really hard. One thing, we can change our position, but changing your elders' position is really hard. And at the beginning of this election, my dad was like, no, this is what we're going to vote for, because of that whole scare that if we don't vote for them, then a party that they don't want elected would get elected. But by the end of it, when it really came to the election time and to vote, our conversation completely changed. And I wasn't even ready for it. It just happened so quick. And they were like, no, we want change ourselves. Like, we want to try to, like, promote it and like more hopeful on the end that we're going to vote for this. And even after the outcome, regardless of the results, if we didn't get what we wanted, we were still happy with the direction we're going in.
Yeah. Like, obviously, like a minority is always tough to get around when it comes to pushing things through. But I think, to your point, like, I think it could have been a lot worse.
Of course.
And I was actually worried about that.
That's how we look at things.
I know,
like,
exactly.
Who do you vote for? The lesser of, you know, the ones that you actually don't want to vote for.
Yeah.
But I think, to your point, I mean, there are things that were positive. Like, so many people came out and voted. The advanced polling was fantastic.
Yeah.
I voted before I headed out to New York, and it was a priority for a lot of people, which I think is great. And millennials coming out, I think that all was really good. But having said that, I do find it stressful because, you know, you obviously see what's happening down south. You see what's happening in other countries, like in the UK, like Brazil. I can't imagine my country like that.
Yeah.
And so that was the stress. And then, you know, you do the vote compass, and I'm like right in the middle between liberal and conservative. And I'm like, what do I do?
Yeah.
And so, you know, I think there's a lot of thinking that happens as a person, or at least for me, which was, what do I value more? Like, what is actually more important to me? The social, the liberal, progressive thoughts, or me as a businesswoman who wants certain things that had, like, what is more powerful within me right now that's going to make my vote?
Yeah.
And to me, it was obviously the social issues that like outweighed the fiscal.
I actually had a moment when I was at the ballot where it took me some time to figure out what I wanted to choose, because I was conflicted, like, and I'm not going to tell you who I voted for, but I think by this conversation you can kind of guess who I didn't vote for. But I did have a moment where I sat there as I was about to check mark who I was going to vote for in my area, where I was like, man, should I take a chance or should I just, you know, play it safe? And I kind of had a similar feeling to you, Reggie, in regards to, okay, like, I've never been a party person. I've always been a people person, if that makes sense. Not the People's Party of Canada, but a people person.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, please. I'm glad I can clarify. So for me, all of my votes previously in an election have always been dependent on the people. And I've always... it's either people I've interacted with, people that are very charismatic, people I think that can do the job. This time around, I didn't really see much of my candidates, so a lot of it was based on what I saw in the media and how I was feeling on that day. But it was a tough choice, and probably because of, I felt like all of it was, I don't know, I felt like no matter what, it was going to end up the same way. But
on a positive note, though, in the election,
let's flip it.
Like, on a positive note, though, like what I just take away the good. I can't help it.
I know, you're such a positive person. What's your Twitter handle again? Prancing Pagoda?
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
Think about the platforms that we focused on the last election. That is what opened my eyes. That's why I feel like I started hating politics, because I lived in the States as well, and I lived here as well, and that hate was so obvious there. When you see the hate, you know it's here. It wasn't that straight to your face, and it came out during the election. Like, there was platforms on whether, like, what you wear during your citizenship oath.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that, like, blew my mind at the time. But now, like, this election, I see that, even the Conservative Party, like all platforms discussed climate change. Like every single one acknowledged that we can work towards this. And I was like, well, I didn't see that coming. And I felt like that was like at least still, okay, it's hard. It's really little. It's baby steps. That's the thing. And it's hard to think of something radically to change. But like focusing on the good stuff that is possibly happening or the possibilities, they're there still.
I feel like the hate in politics is a good segue to the topic I wanted to talk about. And coming out of the election, unfortunately, I believe it was this past Wednesday or Thursday, re-elected Liberal MP Catherine McKenna had her office vandalized. Someone spray painted the C word on her face. And I was kind of reading about this story in further detail. Kind of was super messed up because apparently leading into the election, she actually had asked people in her staff for increased security. And then she also, when this incident took place, she also mentioned on social media that she's used to getting slander on social media when it comes to her and her being a female in politics and her not being accepted in the role that she has as an MP. And you know, I found this entire thing to be very disturbing because I feel like politics has really enabled a lot of this underlying hate for a lot of people. And to your point, Reggie, earlier about down south, like I think a lot of the incidents from down south have allowed itself to creep its ugly head here in Canada. And I just feel like we're going backwards. And I'd love to get both your thoughts, not only from a politics standpoint, but from a general industry standpoint. Like if you're quite surprised that this stuff is taking place, and maybe Reggie will begin with you because you are very deep into the art scene. Like, have you ever seen anything similar, whether it's not not really vandalism, but maybe people holding other people down because of their sex, because of their gender in the art world? Or
all
in
the
general?
time.
All really,
the time. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all. In fact, I believe these are the growing pains for hopefully the dial to move and shift in the direction we want it to go. Like when I worked in the thick of the art scene, like the sector at the kind of, like I call it the institutional level, in that like it was the larger arts organizations. And institutional in that I worked with the people that governed those spaces. So the board of directors, the chairman usually, my touch points weren't with the staff and the programming and the people that were attending the AG or TIFF or the ROM. It was literally the people that were putting infrastructure in place for those places to exist. And then we liaised with the government, the heritage government more specifically. I found being a female was weaponized against me all the time.
Oh, geez.
Absolutely. And at first, I think as a woman, especially as a woman of color, like you think that there's something wrong with you and you're like, you're wigging out. It's not this bad. But then you start hearing it from other women. And then there becomes a solidarity with other arts administrators or executive directors that are like, oh yeah, when you go to this board meeting, just don't talk because like they just usually talk over you. And you're starting to get coached to be a like second citizen to white male who obviously govern most of these institutions. And then at that point, you're like, okay, so within generations, this has become normalized, like this type of like divisiveness. And I know at one point I just was like, you asked me to sit on this board. I'm not going to just sit here and be your token brown girl. And I used my voice and I would talk about things. And to answer your question, there was one incident which led me to believe that a lot more drastic changes needed to be made and needed to be made at a faster, like we need to adapt to these changes faster. And that was during Canada 150. I just thought 2017 was a year of us as a nation celebrating colonialism. And there was just something, you know, in theory, there's something just so wrong with that.
Yeah, I didn't feel right.
Canada has existed far longer than 150 years. And so, yes, while one province, BC, my home province, like, you know, we were able to get Canada 150 plus, that to me was just still responsive to like something we were celebrating federally that made no sense. And in the arts sector, what that looked like was, you know, me sitting with some of the most powerful arts leaders that are philanthropists, which means that they're actually businessmen. They're private sector CEOs that volunteer and give their money to the arts. And so I'm not just talking like, you know, the creative people. I actually was working with the thick of the private sector. And they wanted to do an arts summit, which you're only invited to. Nobody knows that we do this. So it's invite only chairman executive directors and artistic directors are invited, and your arts organization has to have a $5 million or more operating budget a year. So now we're talking about like very elite group of people.
Wow.
And so we're sitting at this round table, and I'm one of 2 people of color, one of maybe 3 or 4 women. And they go, okay, we're celebrating Canada 150. And we're going to talk. And there's this like level of like, you know, self-importance. We're going to talk about First Nations integration into the arts. And I'm just looking around. I'm like, there's not a single First Nations person representing.
Yeah.
And then second to that, they decided to have the celebration and the conference held at the Confederation Center in Charlottetown. Mm-hmm. And I was like, guys, like, holy F-U-C-K, this is insane. Like, how racist and how tone deaf can you be?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so that was a big open, like that to me was a big shift in my life, both as a person, but also in my professional life, where I was like, I want to do this my own way, and I'm going to launch Willendorf, and I'm going to do it I'm going to follow due process when we're talking about things like this. So to answer your question in a very, very long way, yeah, it does not surprise me at all.
It's and I'm glad that you shared some personal experience, because even again, just going back to the election, like when you had all 3 of the major party leaders talk about abortion, it's just like, why? Like, it just didn't make any sense. And I thought it was kind of sad too. And again, I'll probably use this as like sort of my last. Well, I am talking to Mike later about the election, but I did find it sad that out of the main party leaders, the only one that was female was the Green Party leader, and it just. Again, it's surprising that in 2019 we haven't seen progress. And then when you see incidents like the one that took place this week, or the one that you mentioned, Reggie, when you were working with Canada 150, it's like, why are we still doing this? Like, my main background is corporate. I'm working in marketing, and I really commend a lot of different organizations who really focus on creating women's groups, who really focus on getting C-level executives to be, really representative not only of gender but of race, and trying to be diverse. But when it's like, again, it's almost like having like a women's business committee with all guys that think that they know what they're talking about when they actually don't. And I don't know. I'm not a fan of this intimidation game. And I feel like for some of the good guys, and again, I'm not going to say I'm one of the good guys, because who knows what faults I have. But as someone who really believes in equality, it just kind of puts us in a weird position too.
But you guys have a role to play in it too, right? Mm-hmm. Like, who we empower to speak in general, especially about female issues and equality and equity. Yeah. I think we all have a role to play in it. And I think, importantly, we have to understand the power in that, but also like the power in not becoming divisive ourselves. Like, I think a lot of times when we think about having a female initiative, we think about, okay, who are the most powerful women we know? Let's put them in a room together. Yeah. And it's like, well, why can't men be in that room? Like,
that's true too.
Let's
definitely need allies.
Yeah, let's actually think about this and like and do this in cooperation with one another. And there's a lot that women have to learn from men, in the same way there's like a plethora that men have to learn from women. Yeah. You know what I mean?
It's such a place of insecurity for some of these individuals that perpetrate acts like the one we saw this week. Like,
for sure.
I just don't get it. Gil, KG, what are your thoughts?
I'm not surprised at all. Just like, I agree. There's so much that you both said that like just resonated with me as well. It's like, and what the most important thing right now though that you're doing is just having a conversation and bringing it up. And what we need to do first and foremost is condemn it. Like, we straight up, it needs to be, that's not cool. Like, for in that language to still be used in the derogatory terms and condescending. It happens in a position when women get in higher positions of power. They are definitely threatened more. It's on media right now because that's right in the front for us to see. But that's been happening. This is like the narrative. It hasn't changed. Yes, at a very slow rate it is, because we have more allies now, and it's important in order for us to even make anything move forward. You need to have allies. Like, this isn't just about women. It's about men and women, But with everything that you guys were saying, like even like how you were saying but what's most important, I think, when you find yourself in this position, and what we can do is like we have a voice and speak up. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, one thing I wanted to ask you, because you're a big basketball fan, obviously, with your Ball is Life meme that you're pushing out there.
Watching, I'm a little, I don't focus that much anymore.
What position do you play?
Me?
Power forward.
Point guard. Yeah, whatever. I was like, no.
She's the Kyle Lowry of
shooter,
the
whatever
Malton basketball court.
Yeah. It's the position that works in the game. That's the position that's going to give me the most points. Exactly. That's the one that I'll play.
She's like the Kobe. It's almost, I find like a very interesting topic is the relationship between the NBA and the WNBA. Like, I don't know if you heard, but like Skylar Diggins apparently played an entire season of the WNBA pregnant, which is like awesome.
I did not hear, but that's the coolest thing ever.
It is super cool. And when you look at the pay scale of a WNBA player versus an NBA player, also the respect that the WNBA gets. Like people use it as a punchline for a joke, but you have serious ballers in the WNBA that are killing 100%. It. Yeah. Again, I think it's another prime example of just people moving backwards.
Well, with the pay scale, that's like hard. There's so many variables that come into that because the NBA, it's a business. You know, think about it as two businesses, for a lot longer too, right? And the way it's treated is as a business. That's why I stopped really watching that much because I don't. All sports are rigged, guys. I'm saying it right now. It's the truth. It is. I'm sorry to burst your bubble, but it's.
I feel like we need a minute to talk about that.
Let's do it. Let's talk about sports rigging.
No, they are, man, to a certain extent. And sometimes, like as a true fan, like for a while, like when it hits you, it hurts your feelings. So I took a step back from NBA for a while. Yeah. But it's a business. It's a corporation. There's so much fun within the sport. That's true. But the championships or the games that they have and whatever they make money off of, that part of it's not real.
What would be sort of both of your solutions in regards to dealing with this intimidation or dealing with people that are constantly going to take the low route and are going to result to vandalism and social media trolling? Like how does one deal with this in a positive way to continue to move forward without being discouraged? And Raji, I'd love to get your thoughts on this because you are in the arts world. I'm sure you've had trolls in the past that have teased you, or you've interacted with people that just don't have the best interest in mind. Like, what's your way in dealing with stuff like this?
To be honest, I haven't. I think like I take that with a lot of gratitude. I haven't had that kind of experience before. So my experience I've had though has been all under the table, quiet. Gotcha. Let's not talk about it. Yeah. You know, don't you go into a gala and one of your mentors will be like, "Oh, don't stand too close to that diplomat. He's going to have his hand on your tush." And you're just kind of like, so it's been super quiet, and it's this like quiet agreement amongst women that, you know, we'll look out for each other. Like, you know, there's men out there that are not cool. Yeah. I kind of like that we are in a point in life in general where we have access to resources that allows us to empower ourselves. With that comes the responsibility of us, or I guess the exposure that now people have exposure to us, and like I guess that they can harm us, and they have, as much as we have the right to use our voice, so do people who are going to use it irresponsibly. Yeah. But there is something that I like. Not that I like that. There's something that I appreciate in the opportunity, which is that it's out there. You know, if this woman, like I have so much sympathy for what she's going through, because that's when you sent me that link, it actually really disheartened me. But the fact that it's out there and that she is going to inevitably get a lot of support, and we're going to be able to say, listen, this is actually a thing. You know, this exists. Sexism exists. Inequality exists. I think that is a great foundation to start having more progressive, more productive conversations. What that looks like, it's a hard question to answer now. Honestly, I'm thinking about it and I'm like,
just continued support.
But there needs to be action. Conversations are good, and we've been doing conversations for a while. But when I say condemn with their voices for those that can only condemn with their voices.
Condemn for sure.
But like I know there's. I'm not a lawyer over here, but I know there's so many different metrics when it comes to how they're going to determine what the severity, right? Yeah. But take it seriously, and whoever's hands it goes into, whatever judge, whatever case, whatever court, however it goes forward, just it needs to be taken seriously, and every time. That's why even now, and it's crazy with and hot take right here, even now, even with
the warning.
Yeah, well, I feel like I need to say it out.
Give it to us.
But even with rape cases, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous how much in court it has to be what's used as against victims, for example.
Oh, so much victim blame.
Like, yeah,
totally.
With the clothing that you're wearing, or even like people getting away and their sentencing being so minimal, because the way they compare, it's using previous cases. That's how they determine the severity of what their sentence they're going to give. And there's not enough people that have come forward, so there's not a lot to compare to.
Yeah.
But whoever's hands it goes into, we need to take it as severely as possible. That's how we're going to move forward.
I agree. I think, I agree in most respects in that, like, our legal system is reactive. It has always been reactive. Something happens, we convene, and then we design legislation, we have a case, whatever, and that becomes the footprint for the future, right?
Yeah.
But right now, in this day and age, like, I look at democracy. What we're talking about here is really just democracy. Everybody's right to exercise their voice.
Yeah.
What does democracy look like in the digital age? Like, we're not having those conversations. Like, I'd like to speak about one case that actually tipped me, that, like, hurt me so bad that I actually wrote my LSATs after that, which is,
wow,
2 women in Toronto were being harassed by the same man. They didn't know each other, but they were both being harassed by the same man. And when this went to court, that man was let off with nothing.
Really?
And the judge said to the women, you did not explicitly tell him that he is harassing you. Meanwhile, there's like one-sided Twitter, and this guy shows up when they check in on Instagram to some bar. He shows up.
Oh my God.
And so you look at something like that, and you're like, now you've set a pedestal, like you've set,
exactly.
a case that now for future, it's going to be like, oh, well, you didn't explicitly say that you don't want to be stalked by this man.
Exactly.
And so it's like, we really need to have a conversation about what democracy looks like in the digital age, and I don't know why this is not a priority.
Yeah, well,
what the heck are you guys thinking? Politicians, society? Why does Facebook collect my data?
Yeah.
Why is the government not protecting it? Why are all these algorithms like telling me that I need to purchase a Majuri ring when I've never been into a Majuri shop? Like, what is going on? You know?
Yeah.
And there needs to be democratic intervention with the chaos, which is the digital era, you know?
I wholeheartedly agree, because I feel like the digital area is like the Wild West, right? Like, there's so much going on.
It's anarchy.
Yeah,
it truly
totally is.
Like, I wrote it when I was a journalist. I wrote a piece on the electorate, like the elections in Russia, and I was talking about, like, there's a digital electorate now.
Yeah.
Like, there are people that are convening, that are holding forums, and everything is done online. And what are we doing to appeal to them? How are we empowering them? Like, even with Justin not doing his electoral reform was so frustrating for me, because I was like, why are you not seeing what our needs are and responding to those in a way that's keeping us safe as people, you know? And so I feel like that's where I put a lot of, like, I don't know a lot about kind of democratic procedures, but that is one area where I'm just like, why are we not doing more?
Yeah.
Like, and also not even doing more. Why is this not a priority? And furthermore, the last one, why are young people not the ones that are having this conversation? You old people don't actually know what Facebook and WhatsApp is. Like,
I have no idea.
When you listen to Mark Zuckerberg being like, ask questions by the Senate, my heart breaks, because I'm like, what are you asking, dude? Like, that doesn't make sense. Facebook and WhatsApp have nothing to do with one another. Like, your line of questioning is not going to move the dial.
Yeah, there's no thought being put behind
yourself.
it.
So go get young people that know what they're talking about. Bring them into those decision-making circles. Have think tanks and invite young people, invite marginalized people, invite women and
children. I want to invite you to my show. It's on Saturdays, 5 to 7 o'clock.
I'm just going to sit there and like bash.
This is awesome. I swear. We were literally just talking about this yesterday. Like, same thought process, very similar conversation. So
let's do it. Like, come on. Honestly, for me, like, I have so much expectation of the people we appoint to power. And so, like,
but you should, though, as a citizen, like, that's why we elect them, right?
I don't know. There was like I don't know whether we were living in euphoria for a minute, or I certainly was, because I didn't even exercise my right to vote for a few years. I'm not going to lie. I'm not proud of it. But now, like, you know, I do my diligence. I'm like,
you need to.
This is important, and it's for my children. Like, this is not even for me anymore. Like, I want to design a world where my child, if it's a girl, has the right to choose whether she wants to have a child or not, or what she does with her body, or how she identifies with herself. In the same way, my boy is going to have the right to, identify however he wants.
Exactly.
Like, why are we not planting the seeds for future generations? Like, we hold that power right now.
You know what? I feel like there's a sense of fear, and this kind of relates to the incident that took place. I think some of those individuals that aren't as informed when it comes to the digital economy, or even just how to deal with some of these social media analytics and whatnot, I feel like the reason why they don't consult people that might be specialists is because there's a fear that they might take their job. And I think there's a sense of fear that exists, unfortunately. And
if somebody can do my job better, take the job.
I agree 100%. Like you want an expert in there to like people were mixed this week about AOC's questioning of Mark Zuckerberg and just some of the Facebook tactics, but by all means, like AOC's like someone who's 30 years old who like gets social media. So if she's going to ask potent questions to Mark Zuckerberg, it's because she knows what she's talking about, right?
So we should exercise that more. And you don't need to be an elected, like it could be, you mentioned, like, marketing, corporations, that conversation, the responsibility of marketing.
Yeah,
right? And what consumer products you're pushing, which ones you're not, the questions you're asking, the stories you're telling, to whom. Like, that to me would aid itself to a conversation about something in politics. Like, we can have interdisciplinary conversations that talk about digital democracy. I feel like let's get that diversity of thought in place,
I could have been on air all day. Whoever, and we have real, true listeners out there and fans out there. We know it. We know it. However many, how many are there?
Is Thumman putting two people?
26.
26? Wow, that's awesome.
That are dedicated, that will never, ever miss no matter what, like a single minute.
That's 25 more than me.
Do you know anybody in your family that's dedicated that will go like from...
my dad,
and they're not even related.
My dad listens to all my shows.
Really? That's good job.
He supports the art. He's the first one to like my social posts. He's the first one to like my brother's social posts.
Sorry, your dad's on Instagram?
Yeah, he's on the gram.
Amazing.
He's on the gram. He doesn't know how to DM though, but he's on the gram.
That's awesome.
That could pose as a potential problem. That might be something where you might want to do like a 30-minute tutorial.
I might have to see what he's looking at. But yeah, no. This is so far we had a really dope conversation around. Well, I don't want to use dope and sexism in the same sentence, but we did get deep on sexism here on this show. My God, please, let's move away from that. I do want to switch it up a little bit because we did sort of close off around social media and the sharing of information and just how there needs to be some type of system in place to, find a way to kind of regulate some of the trolls and some of the mean things that are happening on social. But you know what? I wanted to bring up a topic that I find, as being followers of both of your accounts on social, one thing I really appreciate about both of your accounts is how open you are about things that you're dealing with, things that you face, things that you're working on, things that just are happening in your lives. And what I like about both of your feeds is that it's very authentic. It's not, you're not hashtagging ad at the end. You're not trying to push a product. It's really around pushing the journey that you're currently on as an individual and things that you're feeling and wanting to, open up and use social media as a platform to open up. And I actually stumbled upon an interesting article. It was from the Medium. So it was a crowdsourced article talking about... Oh, sorry, I got kicked out of my Medium subscription. But pretty much it was talking about how the power of being emotionally vulnerable on social media and what it can actually mean and what it can actually do for people. And I've struggled a little bit in my socials. Like I remember when I first got Twitter, I used to be an emotional tweeter all the time. Especially,
I've done it too.
Yeah, where I would just tweet on a whim. I had all the phases. I had the phases where I'd tweet because I was sad. I'd also tweet about Drake lyrics. Like I'd tweet Drake lyrics, like emotional ones, because I was a big Drake fan during the Take Care era. And then I also now use social media as a tool to kind of talk about how I'm feeling and also obviously just to promote the show. But I just want to get your thoughts around opening up on social media, because there's a lot of people that do it and they have private accounts. There's a lot of people that do it as a way to show their friends and their family, hey, look, like, I'm good, but I'm using this as a way to open up a little bit. And some people just use it as a medium just to get their voice heard. And I love to get both your perspectives around being vulnerable on social media. And Reggie, you specifically, you posted something about, I think it was during Anxiety...
World Mental Health Day.
Yeah, World Mental Health Day. You posted actually a beautiful written post about some of your struggles with mental health. And I actually was very much moved by it because I've had struggles myself, especially with all the craziness that's been going on in my life recently. what is your approach to social media? Like, what is like when it comes to using it as a tool to kind of showcase what you've gone through and how you're dealing with it? Why did you choose social media to do that?
I don't have an approach.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I think I'm very good at helping people strategize their social media. I certainly, it's kind of like a butcher doesn't eat his own meat thing. I don't use it. In fact, social media caused me a lot of the panic disorder that I was talking about on World Mental Health Day. I feel there are some people that I know on social media that have like, I guess influencers, but that word is really strange for me, but they're not at all anything like what they post online.
100%. Oh, yeah.
And then I get so confused because I'm just my brain operates in such an analytical way. So I'm like, wait, what? You're talking about this, but you're so that. Like, what are you talking about? So that confuses me. So that I should throw that in there. But on the other side of it, I feel social media could be used, obviously, for good. Like when I posted that about World Mental Health Day and the resources that are available for free that are covered by OHIP, I got definitely over 20, 30 messages. And I'd like to even say it was probably closer to 50 of people being like, wait, how do you qualify? Who do you go to? What is the process? And I was just like, and I sat there up until like I think 1 or 2 a.m. and responded every single one of them, even though they weren't my friends. They're just people like I didn't even know, and I thought that's wonderful, and that made me feel like this was worth it. Being vulnerable on social media is difficult, and I think that if someone is going to utilize social media as a resource, they have to understand what being vulnerable even means. Like, and I'm going to answer this question in a way that I've spoken about at a panel, but there was a woman who asked a question, and she said, as a creator, the panel was on creative directors in the attention economy. And so she was like, as a creator, like, when can I be vulnerable, or should I be vulnerable all the time? And the sister next to me, she's an influencer in that she has like a lot of followers, and she goes, oh girl, you should be vulnerable all the time. Like, and she just was like, yeah, like women need to rise up and just hold space and be vulnerable all the time. And I just was sitting there, I'm like, man, what are you talking about? If I went into a boardroom for my job and was vulnerable that day to like these guys, they're not asking for that, nor is that appropriate.
Yeah, exactly.
And the most important thing, and I actually interjected, I was like, thanks for sharing that, Christina, but like I completely, with all of my heart and soul, disagree, because that's very, a dangerous thing to do. You should only be vulnerable if the space allows for it, if the space asks for it, because otherwise you're going to be vulnerable to whom? And then now you're going to be sitting there with no likes and nobody reaching out, nobody saying like, yo, you good? Like that could be a very dangerous thing. So I really do believe that if you're going to use social media, you really got to think about its implications in your personal life and be very, very confident in the things that you want to share. Yeah. And that would be my rule of thumb to younger people that are listening, or to even older people that are listening. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I love how you frame that, because I think with social media, it can become a little dicey, to your point, if you become too vulnerable, because then people might get the perception that, hey, maybe this person's not good and maybe I should check in on them, or maybe they're sharing a bit too much that maybe they shouldn't share. And I've seen a mix of both. I think I'm over the whole influencer culture. Like, there's, again, when it comes to an influencer, there's no one's life that can be that amazing every single day. And I'm not trying to sound mean, but realistically, like, show me authenticity, like show me what you're dealing with, like show me the struggles that you're facing, show me maybe the ways that you're overcoming some of the challenges that you're facing in your life. Like, that's the stuff that I like to see, because as a marketer, sometimes I'm put in a room with some of these influencers to try to sell a product, and sometimes I'm just like, man, I feel like you're this pretend person all the damn time, and it's like, really, it can be much. And I don't know what it is. Like, I find that when I see social media content from someone that I'm following that I can really resonate with, it really touches me a lot.
There's a sense of belonging.
There is, like, okay, yeah. It's like, I'm not alone. Yeah. And I love that. And that's the stuff that I always resonate with. And Gurjoat, I know in some of your lyrics, or some of your poems that you write, some of it's like, very much like, freestyle street hip hop style,
Yeah.
and then some of it's very much like you're calling somebody out. like how do you use Instagram as a tool?
I need to know your Instagram handle. Real
No, we're gonna get her to spit something later. But how do you go about just putting yourself out there like that without anyone being like, yo, why are you talking about me, or even dealing with the implications?
Before I answer that, I just want to speak to vulnerability, how you were talking about it, and saying just the word of caution that you spread out. That it's a beautiful thing to be aware of. But I do think it is a journey to get there, to that awareness. And the fact that you're putting it out there, it just sparks the catalyst of thought, and just want to snap to that real quick. But
there's no snapping on my show, I told you.
Social media, I don't use it like a tool. So for me in social media, like being younger, whenever Snapchat came in or whenever Twitter did, I did have those times with Twitter emotionally tweeting when I was young. When I first got Twitter, my name is literally Prancing Pakora. That was how I started Twitter. And then when you're angry or you're upset or whatever, it was like an outlet. My Instagram's been on its own journey for sure. And there was a time like when I first got Instagram, I just wanted to put the nicest pictures out there.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to really display, not purposefully in a sense of like to fool people and be like my life is amazing all the time, just the happy moments. You just wanted to be like, oh, this is a good time, happy moment, only positive. Even when I started posting my poetry, I only posted positive. And me even talking about my poetry or like even the lyrics that I write or whatever, it was such a long journey to get there in the first place. But when I started recognizing that people resonate with it, when I finally like saw that and how like it could move certain people like in such a deep level, like it really resonated with them, that's when I was like, okay, some of these conversations need to be had and need to be said, because so many times in your life you said this earlier when you were speaking, you feel like you're insane until you realize that you're not. Even it gets to a point, and like I feel like life is just a bunch of different peaks and valleys. Like there's so many peaks, so many valleys, and when you hit those and just recognizing it and knowing that you're not alone sometimes, it's powerful. And being on the Elemnt and having the radio show and just knowing, there was a point I got to in my journey when I realized that platforms like Instagram or Twitter or Snapchat, however you want to use it, what vulnerability you want to use, just be your authentic self, and that's all. And if it helps someone along the way, your struggles or even your triumphs, it just makes it so much more beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Do you find that to be considered authentic on social, you have to be vulnerable?
I want to actually say something about that word.
Sure.
I actually think that being authentic is not a thing.
Okay.
Because I'm like, who I was last year is certainly not who I am.
Exactly. No, for sure.
And then furthermore, I know that I'm going to keep on growing.
Yeah.
And there's an evolution that does not just stop because now you're a teenager. Like we continue to grow, and I feel like we don't actually consider that. And I know we're going to get into Kanye West and like, but everyone's on a journey, and
exactly, and you're there.
Yeah,
exactly.
And so it's like you don't get to this like this like euphoric point of authenticity where you're like, all right, I know myself. No. I'm going to be posting X, Y, Z. Yeah. And I think what we ought to change the word from authentic to is genuine. Like you could just all we really have the power to be is A, in the moment, and B, as honest as we can. And that might be something different from yesterday, but it's like because we're on this journey.
We are.
Like I found, for instance, like a year ago I started my panic disorder therapy. It was called cognitive behavior therapy, and it was after like years of being like butchered in the art scene, with like largely white people around me. And so I felt like I got into a bit of a panic disorder that was triggered by just all sorts of different scenarios and experiences. And then this year, like I completed my CBT, my cognitive behavior therapy, which I'm so excited about. And people were saying to me like, "Yo, you're so much lighter," and like, "Yo, like I love that you like actually love dancing. I love seeing you with your hair down." And I'm like, I'm literally the same person, but you just didn't you weren't in the access room. Like,
exactly.
Like
I'm
that person with my crew, and you weren't a part of that. But now I'm able to bleed that person who I am into spaces where I'm not, like where I don't know everybody.
Yeah.
And it feels nice to be able to share that. But there was also some people that are like, are you good? Like, are things good? Like, did you guys like, like, are you guys having mezcal tonight? And I'm just like, what makes people think that we can't keep on growing and then
that was
turn up differently?
That was actually a real, like, it's been a journey. My Instagram and the stuff I post, like, that's been a journey. And it's even some stuff that I do post and I really, like, for some things, I keep it real. When I do post, I'm just kind of like, it's always that fear. It's always been a fear. It's been levels for me. If you go really far back, you'll see it different. Only positive, positive, positive. But sometimes you are having a bad day. Sometimes someone did, upset you. Sometimes that's my therapeutic relief to get it on paper and write it down. But then it's my artistic way to compose it with even the type of font and the picture behind it
and the rhymes
and put it out there. And if Instagram, isn't it a tool for your art? It could be a business tool too, but I'm happy that you enjoy it, but anything I post or do or whatever, I just really put it out for myself.
And that takes a lot of courage.
It does.
So that's like
100%.
amazing that you do that. Because like I haven't used Instagram in the same way at all. Like Humble used to always say, like, Raji, get your Instagram like together. And like this is like, 5, 6, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And he'd be like, you go to the most exclusive parties, like in your clothing, like tag all your designers you wear and where you're at. And I was like, why? Like, who cares?
I know.
And I wouldn't. And at times when I would, I just felt like these dopamine hits. I'm like, oh my God, 10 people like this? Like, who are these 10 people? And then like you go back and you're like, 100 people. Who's that?
That addiction is crazy.
And when I saw that happening, like I was like, bowed out.
Yeah.
Like Instagram's
I don't got a lot of followers.
Really?
Not a lot of likes.
No, I don't either. But I was just like, why am I doing this? And that made me actually be like, no, I don't. And I now in all these years later, I find myself on Pinterest and First Dibs way more than like Instagram. So I've realized what's true to me. Like, and Insta doesn't feel that. Like, it feels it when I'm looking for awesome like artist or something. That's great because that community that Instagram creates for you is wonderful. But at the same time, like that's I'm a voyeur on Instagram. I'm certainly not an exhibitionist. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, totally. And I think it's important to kind of define that for yourself because it's very easy to get caught up in wanting to be an influencer in quotations or to wanting to be someone that people are wanting to get the likes, like the dopamine hit that you're talking about.
Oh my God, I totally wanted to be an influencer.
It's
10
nuts.
Years ago.
And it's and now it's fascinating because you're starting to see that shift, right? You're starting to see a lot of those influencers that 8, 9, 10 years ago that got their start slowly go through hating social media or wanting to disassociate. I work with an individual who's been on the show, Shimmy Cocoa Puffs, who was a hardcore one of the first initial YouTubers, and he had to step away because he's like, dude, this was affecting my life. He's getting back into it now, and I think he's somewhat found his purpose when it comes to the message he wants to share, and he's very much being more inclusive, wants to promote his community, wants to really showcase some of his learnings over the last years during his hiatus. But it's tough. Like the gram itself can be such a destructive tool, like at times. And I think for myself too, like when it comes to, doing a show and putting on events and seeing what your peers are doing and also sometimes, wondering like, or even questioning the stuff that you're doing because you're seeing a lot of people post stuff and being successful and you're almost using that as a tool to, discourage yourself from moving forward, or you're being nervous about, hey, should I share this? Is this too personal, or should I pull back? Should I not expose myself?
I like the way you do it though, Nav. I gotta say, like I'm not saying this because you paid me. No, I'm bugging. But I remember
paycheck on the DL.
When I first met you, we met at a studio, right?
We did. So I did a New Theory Radio event that Gurjoat skipped, and it was a few months ago.
What are you talking about? Oh yeah, I don't remember where it was or what, but I was very upset at not being there.
Yeah, she had FOMO. But yeah, we met there because I met you through Gurpreet.
Janna. Yeah. And I was there with some girls.
Yeah, and we hung out in 876 downstairs in the studio. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I was with my what I call like my curator crew.
Yeah.
So I remember it was like Maria, Ashley, and Umbreen from the city of Toronto.
Yeah.
And literally, you created such a cool open space for us. I think you took us downstairs, and we had like a sub party.
Pretty much.
Downstairs to everything upstairs.
Gurpreet's playing bongos for some reason.
Which was like amazing. And that was like such a memorable night for me and for all of us. And I just remember being like, man, this guy is dope as like heck, because
I love how good you are at holding back. And she even asked, the fact that you asked, that's awesome. I have people have to remind, they want it written in front of them so they don't accidentally slip.
I know. See, again, you created a space of safety, and I'm like, oh, I can't swear. But I remember you did that, and then you remembered me from the TIFF party. And I was like, man, he remembered. Like, I remember that experience, but sometimes like I'm bad with faces.
Definitely.
But you've always just had this like friendliness and like genuine quality to you, and I feel like that extends itself online. Which then you're like, okay, cool, because he's like the same person he is offline as the same person he is online, and I think that's such a rarity that it's actually quite refreshing.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Hats off to you for sure.
And I'll be honest, it's a struggle sometimes, because sometimes when I post stuff about this show, like there's people, like I have friends in my network that know I do this, but we don't really talk about it because, again, we're friends. We're talking about other stuff. We're talking about our wives and our kids and all that. And there's times when I post and I'm like thinking like, oh, I'm so annoying with this New Theory Radio stuff. But then, I don't know. It's just weird.
No. Okay. I don't think so. Like, I actually love, like, Umbreen was she was speaking at the TED Talks yesterday. And like everyone and their mother was posting about this. And I was just like, yes, I wasn't there because I was doing other things. But I was just like getting to like see her popping everywhere. And,
I love it.
You know, when there's so much love for people, especially those that are doing something out of the norm, like there's a solidarity. So I like actually seeing that and like supporting it and being a part of the journey with others and however I can be. Then the other way around, being like, yo, man, like, I just want to see your kids on the ground. Like, no.
I just want to see your dog. No, but, you know, I do appreciate the feedback, because the one thing that I do want to do too, and I it's funny because I am someone who's in tune with their emotions a lot, and sometimes there are things that I'd love to post. Like right now, I am kind of going through this interesting transition period in my life where I'm having a kid in a couple weeks, and I just bought a house, and like,
congrats, man.
Thank you. I know it's not to gloat, but it's to be like, man, there's a lot of stuff happening.
For sure.
And the mental health has been interesting over the last couple of weeks. I'll just being completely honest, because it's my show. I can talk about it. But there are times where I'm like, man, I just wish I can just post about this. I'm reverting back to Twitter a lot. Like, it
can be an outlet sometimes. And it's all a tool, and you can use that tool for yourself. However, whichever way it helps you, and it helps you grow as well, use it that way. And of course, it's a tool that can be used negatively as well.
Totally.
But you know what? If you're feeling it, someone else is feeling it.
Exactly.
Right? You know, and that's the purpose of social media. It's to create your own kind of tribe, your own belonging. So I feel like if you have the courage to share things, and you know that this has nothing, and you can isolate that's an online post, and it has nothing to do with me as a human being offline, share. And I think, you know, I don't think about it as much as I used to. And I remember during the times when I was around influencers a lot, those were some of the most stressful times of my life, because I was like, I can't just show up in my sweat. Like, I just, you know what I mean? Like, so
you got to go decked out.
Everything. I don't think it's a thing. I feel like, if you, again, I mean, the big difference here is like what we were speaking about. Like, if you are totally cognizant that how many people like your stuff is not indicative of who you are as a human being, then just go crazy, because you'll probably be speaking to what a lot of people are feeling, but too afraid to share.
I actually, just on this, because it just popped into my mind, and then we'll probably go to commercial break. What do you guys genuinely feel about Bell Let's Talk?
Like, Bell Let's Talk is the first time I posted about like anxiety and depression and like stuff I written before, like long time ago. I always write. Writing has been therapy my whole life. It's just it took a journey to share, and when I shared, I only shared positive, and then it took a whole nother journey to share some more. And I understand there might be negative connotations associated with Bell Let's Talk, but for me personally, it does start a conversation, even amongst people. Even if it's an argument amongst people, they're talking about it. They are talking about mental health. And that was actually the first time I think I was like, all right, like, this is exactly how I feel. I'm going to just put it out there. And then I had a couple different people that messaged me back, and they were like, so my cousin, she's an influencer, but she posted the same thing because she gets anxious as well. But someone through her came out to me and reached out to me because they saw it and was like, you put into words how I feel sometimes. And I was like, that's amazing. Man, well,
I feel,
me too.
I feel yes to that, but I also like kind of, I think in the last sentence of the World Mental Health thing, I was like, we don't need a bell to talk about what's going on.
No,
that was like definitely like a little bit of a, like, you know, play on words. I feel the same as you feel about politics. When you were like, all right, let me talk about this, I need action. And with mental health, I'm at that point now where I've just been like, I feel so passionately about it. I'm like, all right, cool, we're talking about it. It's been like a decade of this. Like, what now? Are you supplying resources? You're a corporation. Like,
so much money is being donated. It's just like, what's the impact?
Yeah, like I actually want to see the SROI on that. Like, cool, people are talking about it, and I think that's powerful. And that is the first step, absolutely. That let's like share these things that we're holding so close to ourselves. The next thing is like Bell
action
and other corporations, like leverage your dollar investment and get like social workers out there that is working with people. That's maybe program some conferences. I don't know what the answer is, but do something more, like, you know,
because it's one thing, and especially this year, because I know they had like a promo video with all these like celebrities and stuff. Sure, like it was like, you know, kind of cool in a way where it's like, oh, these celebrities are standing against mental health, but like to me it kind of took away from the experience. So it's like, oh, okay, this is totally becoming a CSR corporate initiative where they when they talk to their stockholders and be like, hey, look what we're doing for mental health.
Look at the impressions. No, I'm with you. I mean, like we were just having this conversation. Like I'm shooting a documentary for the OVO team right now.
Oh, sick.
And the first part of that doc was it's called Remember Me Toronto, and it was all these hip hop artists from like different communities in Toronto that wanted to talk about like their journey from streets to music to gang violence and all that kind of stuff. And then they put Drake in there. And they did that, and I couldn't understand because I didn't know any of those people because I'm new to the city, so I'm like, I have no idea what I'm listening to, who these people are. Why is Drake in there? And then this time now we're shooting the second part of that. Now it's called Remember Me Mama, and they go, yo, we should interview Drake's mom. I'm like, why? Like, why does that matter? How is that actually telling the story of the women that have lost a child due to gun violence? Like,
oh my God.
No, I don't care about the likes. I am fine if 100 people watch this, which they won't, because I'm going to like totally put my whole engine of support into it. But I'm fine having 100 people watch something that actually resonates than watch like something that just has like this product placement, which is a celebrity. It makes absolutely no sense to me.
Like it was, again, not to talk about the election, but it was like people when, as soon as Rihanna started following Jagmeet Singh, everyone's like, oh, Jagmeet Singh's winning the election. And I'm like, it's not because Rihanna followed him.
But also that's dope as...
It is pretty dope.
Like fudge.
Yeah, because Rihanna will never follow me on Instagram.
Oh my goodness.
We're going to start a basketball team. We just discussed.
Actually? Basketball is
I'm ready. I'm so excited. Thank goodness. It's so hard to meet women that actually do play ball too.
Okay, my sister, she was 3. I was 2.
Were you a Vancouver Grizzlies fan growing up?
Absolutely.
That's still my favorite jersey fit ever. Like I actually, funny enough, this is probably my, because I'm a total like discount shopper when it comes to clothes.
Why wouldn't you?
I always look for good deals. So Steve will play on Steals. We've all been to Steve will play, I'm assuming. And I'll always remember this. Like they had a rack full of like $30 basketball jerseys, right? A lot of the players were like traded. So I'm like, okay, let me see what I can cop. You know, maybe there's like a Raptors one in there, and all of a sudden I see like this teal blue glowing, and it's an Abdur Rahim jersey.
Gosh. I'll buy it from you.
I love it. I can't. But then
$30.
$30. It was like, it was a remake. Like it was like Adidas had remade it. But I'm like, dude, this is a sick jersey. So then I wore it at my honeymoon in St. Lucia, and every single person was like, yo, sick jersey. And then apparently I heard that the Memphis Grizzlies are going to be reverting back to that color this year for like their bonus jersey. So, but I man, that's still my favorite logo. Still my favorite just sports fit is Vancouver Grizzlies.
That's awesome. My favorite jersey is the Lower Merion one I have of Kobe from his high school days.
Snap.
And it's not even mine. It was gifted to my cousin, and she doesn't even know basketball. And she does not. That should have been gifted to me. And she wore it like once maybe, and I just took it. I'm
I
like,
have
all
my
right, it's
Iverson.
mine now. I lost my Iverson one, but I am a day one Iverson fan. I love it.
So which one? Like the white one, black one?
White one, blue stars, red one.
Wow, crazy.
I had the blue and red.
We should talk.
And the letters were coming because I wore them all the time. I had the Kobe 8 one, and everything. It just got destroyed and lost. Yeah.
Man, if I could, I'd wear jerseys every day. Just because. Even though I don't play sports.
But you can.
Yeah, I should.
Totally can.
I should. I feel empowered after this conversation. I'm going to show up to my job tomorrow wearing a jersey. Speaking of jerseys, it's bad segue. Let's talk about.
I was like, how is he going to do it?
On that note,
Kanye wear jerseys. Where is it going to go?
Kanye, Kobe. He was at Kobe's last game.
Adidas, Yeezy.
Yeah, Adidas. There we go. There's a couple segues in there. I'm sure he was a Vancouver Grizzlies fan. Maybe not.
He's listening right now.
He is. Of course
he was listening yesterday too when I talked about his album.
He
I'm
did?
telling you, we had the same show.
So Kanye West finally releases Jesus is King, which is his ninth album. Thanks, Amit. Yeah. So yeah, actually, Thamin Atwal is bringing in sweets here that may have been from my house.
I thought that was a samosa. I almost died.
It did. It looks like one too. So Kanye West finally releases this album. Kanye's been on this interesting journey. I am a big Kanye West fan. No matter what, he's just one of my guys.
I'm a fan too. I like him.
Yeah, and Reggie, are you a fan of Kanye?
I'm not a crazy fan, but I like him.
I wouldn't say fan.
Okay.
I appreciate him.
Yeah. This album's interesting. I'll say flat out, it's not for me. I think I've always kind of held a sense of hope that Kanye will one day put out another, even though you never want an artist to put out another one of their previous albums. I guess you always hold out for hope that they're going to put an album together that you're just absolutely going to love, that'll resonate with you. He hasn't really done that for me for the last 3 albums. And this album specifically told me that maybe he's officially kind of past his prime and that's it. And it's sad because you never want to see an artist like that.
But he's a creative though. You don't know what could possibly happen later on in his life that might bring it back. Yeah.
But it's an interesting album. It's a gospel rap album. There's a handful of decent tracks on there.
I wouldn't really say that.
Okay, name 1 or 2. But just wanted to kind of get both your perspectives, Reggie. You mentioned that you appreciate him as a person, but not really a fan.
Oh, no. I don't appreciate him as a person.
Okay, well, you appreciate...
I appreciate Kanye.
His art.
He
has some good art, and a creative mind. Interesting mind. I don't think any of us can dissect Kanye's mind at all.
I actually really do like him as a creative.
Yeah.
The kind of work he does. I actually thought that his fashion label was cool, despite that it was plagiarized by Shia LaBeouf's wardrobe, was it? But I like the production of what is Kanye.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
And I think that this album honors that excellent production. Because it is. It's put together beautifully.
Oh, it is. It totally is.
And there were, I was listening to it. Would I have listened to it if you didn't send me, an email with, we're talking about Kanye's new album? First, Kanye has a new album. Second, I should listen to it.
Yeah.
So, when I did, I actually thought it was beautiful.
Yeah. It's a quick album.
It's a quick album.
Yeah. It's something you can get through in one listen. And I'm not going to discredit the work. I think what I find interesting about him is before I listened to the album, I actually listened to the 2-hour interview he did on Apple Music while I was doing work on Friday. And I feel so Kanye right now in these types of environments, I feel like he does ramble a lot. I feel like there is a lot of substance and stuff that he's saying, but I feel like there's a lot of rambling. There's a lot of blaming the system. There's a lot of just angst there. And then this time around, it feels like he's found himself when it comes to God, and he's very much turning to religion as a way to kind of cope with things that he's dealt with. But I don't know, you
have to be cognizant of him being bipolar, right? We got it. But
then he claims that he was misdiagnosed.
You know what? The sheer fact of us. I don't know Kanye. I've never met him. We don't even have 6 degrees of separation. I know very little about this human being, but just watching him and in all of what he has been over the last few years, between the rants on his concerts and having this wedding, and Jay-Z, who it seems he was quite close with, not showing up, his mom dying due to plastic surgery.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine going through all that kind of trauma as a person that nobody knows, and let alone a person who's a public figure. Like, I can't imagine the pressure, the stress, and what he must be going through.
Oh, it's a lot.
Whilst raising children and learning to be a father and all of that. Like, all of that at the same time in the public eye. I don't know. I think
tough.
that we need to be a bit more compassionate, myself included. When he said slavery is a choice, I was like, oh, goodness, dear, I know what you're trying to say, but you're not saying it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that definitely offended me, you know?
But to that point, I find that when you're that successful and I hope you have a team around you of people that you go to collaborate with to help you, guide you when it comes to putting out music, putting out art.
But
like,
Trump doesn't.
I know. It's like...
The thing with Kanye, though, is there's everything that we see in front of the camera. However, we didn't see his childhood. We didn't see him grow up.
I actually enjoy his brevity.
So him even growing up with a single mom, and even the area, and like from rags to riches, I'm sure all of that affects him at all, and it comes out in his music, and it comes out in his behavior, and it comes out. And to think that it all could possibly be calculated, because I know this conversation started about mental health, right? Bipolar or not. So even you said he could have been misdiagnosed, but then that's essentially, if I may, you're alluding to then maybe
that it was in question.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think there's definitely some struggles, and it does 100%. Show out. Whatever we may label it, or it could be labeled as, it's we can't be blind to it as just human beings in general, because you have to recognize.
It's so hard as a fan to see someone go through that, though.
For sure.
And that's what, I remember last year, I think he did an interview about a year ago where he went back to Chicago. It was like a homecoming, and he started crying on the air because he was after those slavery remarks, and I felt for him. I actually was like, man, this is actually hitting my heartstrings, because you're looking at someone who's super vulnerable, similar to what we talked about earlier, and that's pouring his heart out. I just find that I just wish that there were smarter people around him that would sort of help him, instead of let him go on these long-winded rants. The Zane Lowe interview, if you guys have Apple Music, I urge you guys check it out. He actually talks about how he feels like a lot of his aggression was rooted from a sex addiction that he had. And he's he feels like that was rooted from stumbling upon his dad's Playboy collection when he was younger. And he says now that he's found God, he feels like he has a bigger purpose, which is always good. Religion, that's the power of religion sometimes, is that it can help you find solace in stuff that you're currently going through, and allow yourself to get grounded again. But there is an aspect of it where I find it's a bit too preachy for me.
Yeah, I didn't understand a lot of it, because I'm not Christian. I don't think I've ever read the Bible before.
Lyrics weren't good, okay? Straight up, if I'm going to keep it real,
we can.
The album, the production was great.
Production's flawless. His production's always flawless.
But then again, it depends on your ear as well. I don't produce music, so I can't say for sure. Everybody listens with a different ear. From what it sounded to me, it was, I liked the gospel in it. I liked the choir. I liked the production of it. It was great. I feel like it kind of makes me, if I'm going to be completely honest, makes me a little sad, because I feel like such beautiful music kind of went to waste because the lyrics are just they're not good. And I gave it a chance. I really tried to listen through most of the songs, and yet I have yet to find one that I was like, all right, I just felt like it wasn't really there. Maybe this is his creative journey, and he wanted to make it not, because Kanye is good at playing with his words. He's a very good lyricist. We know this, right? Totally. So that's what you kind of expect. So I don't know, maybe he was just trying to go for a different vibe, but I didn't like it.
You know what? What I will say.
I'm so sorry. No. I did have to not force myself to listen to it, but I was like, if we're gonna be talking about it, I gotta listen to it. So it felt kind of like an.
Thanks for the research before the interview, Raji. I appreciate that.
And I listened on the drive here. I just remembered, and I was like, all right, maybe I should listen to the I'm on the radio for 2 days. I was like, maybe I should listen.
And I had to actually channel when I was on a mushroom journey.
Oh, nice.
And so I had to channel okay, how can I make this make sense for me? Yeah. And I was like, okay, the way he talks about God, I'm going to just go ahead and think that that's him talking about the universe and energy and love. And so then I was like, okay, this is more digestible, in that like it makes sense to me now. And I'm emoting, like it makes me feel something. But had I not done that exercise, I probably wouldn't listen to it again.
I'm glad you bring that up though. Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off.
There is a song called Water on the album. I love the beat. I love like the chorus, but then he goes on about Jesus for like an entire verse. And by all means, I'm not mad about that. But then I'm like, how is this resonating with me? I don't know.
But you know what? It's kind of like Snakes on a Plane, that movie. And you go in and you're like, what?
Great analogy.
This movie was Snakes on a Plane?
Literally Snakes on a Plane.
So in the same way, like this, he tells you what it is, right? And then you go into it and you're like, all right, it is what it is. And I'm going to either try to make sense out of it for me, or I'm just going to go ahead and like listen to another track from like Jay-Z or whomever.
I can see it be uplifting to some people. That if that's how they connect with it, I can see. I like that it's an uplifting album. I like that I didn't sense any type of like negative vibes from any of the songs. At least I don't think that.
There's no swearing.
I think I made it through all of it. I believe I did.
Honestly, the fact
maybe one song left behind on the end.
Honestly, for the culture, the fact he had Clips and Kenny G on one song is pretty cool. Like that's pretty Kanye to me. Like when he's able to get weird collaborators in a room and like. Just I can picture Pusha T and Kenny G hanging out. Like that's hilarious. But for me, I'm going to go back to what you said a couple segments ago, Raji, about who you are today isn't who you were yesterday. And I think when you said that, or maybe I'm paraphrasing, but when you said this, when you pretty much said that, it kind of made me think about this topic in like.
I thought about it too. When I said that, I was like, I'm going to bring this up when we talk about Kanye.
We'll never like again. You know, I kind of look at this in different ways. So I'm a big hip hop fan, and right now, Kanye, other rappers that kind of grew up with him, kind of in the scene when he first came out, they're now on the sort of nostalgia tours of their lives. Like they're doing like the early 2000 reunion tours, and they're playing the songs that were big at that moment. There's very few artists that have been able to reinvent themselves and have longevity. Jay-Z's a perfect example of that in my eyes. I think Jay-Z's done a tremendous job. Like 444, his last album, is a classic in my mind, right? Kanye, as much as we would love for him to do another College Dropout or for him to do another My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, I think as an evolution as a person, he can't because it's just, number one, that was Kanye at his moment. And I find that is a good way to kind of justify what he's going through.
And it could, I feel like it could be it could be something that people will lean on. That may not be Christian, that may not be going through the same thing as him, but I think people can lean on the positivity of it. And maybe it's kind of nice to have that.
It is.
Honest. Like, I also can't listen to some of his old work because I'm like, this is just like it's too much noise, and
like feel the Illuminati through it. You just feel it. Like, it hits you 100%.
Wow, you just flat out said it.
That's the third one where we need like, okay, can we talk about this?
Oh, we're talking Illuminati hip hop now. Okay.
I told you to have a show on conspiracy.
We will, and I think Reggie needs to be invited now. We can talk conspiracies.
I would have nothing to add. I'd be like, what do you mean that is like no? My sister, on the other hand.
Oh yeah, okay, we'll have to invite her on. She's like, what do you mean the moon landing was fake? It's fascinating. I was going to say something. I lost my train of thought.
Illuminati,
yeah.
I was at a Jay-Z concert once, and I questioned, like, for a solid 2 minutes, like, what are we throwing the rock up to right now? Because it was red, there was fire, it was
he had some crazy visuals too.
That's hilarious.
I did I had that waver, where inside of you're questioning like what you're doing right now.
But to your point,
it happened.
The Sunday service stuff that Kanye's doing, he's pitching it as a church. Like he's literally saying, this is my church, this is what we do every Sunday.
I'm not feeling like the culty. Like I feel like I'm feeling the vibe of it for sure. Like what he did at, what was it, Coachella or Burning Man?
It looks
Coachella.
Sick.
That was stunning. I was like, oh man, I wish I was there. Kind of in the same way. I was like, I wish I was at Beyonce's. But like when he's doing every Sunday, and I'm like, there is something culty about it, and then that's when I get like disengaged, and it's just a little weird for me. What did you guys think about Jay-Z and NFL?
We did talk about it a few weeks ago, so we can talk about it again.
Do they want him to perform?
No. Jay-Z has a deal with the NFL. Where
I was going to say after Beyonce did, there's no way that isn't NFL owned by a bunch of white elitists?
Yeah. So
there's
Jay-Z
no way
has
they would
a
let
deal.
that happen twice.
The NFL decided, and again, the way I see it is the NFL's like, we're getting so much hate on Kaepernick, we're getting so much hate on just the way concussions, all that, right? It's like we need to make a power move, and Jay-Z was brought to the table, and Jay-Z actually has outspokenly talked about how he's doing it to progress the league forward. But then you have people like Rihanna in one of her latest interviews, like purposely she's not going to perform, and she kind of made a slight remark about it, like I'm not going to support.
No,
him.
because it's not a that's not genuine. Jay-Z's a businessman. He's been making money this whole time, and exactly it's not just his music. So let's be real.
We talked about this a few weeks ago, and I was very conflicted because I am a big Jay-Z fan. Like he is my dude. Like he's my favorite rapper alive.
I'm not trying to hate, just saying.
If we're gonna have a rapping hate contest, I'm ready. But
I'm gonna pull up my Tupac lyrics right now.
Oh God, you're one of those. You're from the West Coast, so
one of those. You're one of many. We're like half more.
Sorry,
than half.
I'm totally a Biggie guy. But anyway,
I'll just pull out my own.
So now comes like conversation number 3 out of 5.
Okay, so I look at it as somebody who has power and status who's going to try to work from within to make change happen. Some people don't see it like that. I know Kaepernick has been very vocal about, hey Jay, why are you selling out? Especially when 444 came out, like went on SNL and wore like a black on black Kaepernick jersey and was like totally talking about how he said no to the Super Bowl halftime show. But I think, I see the positive in it, but there's a lot of people that see the negative. It's like, dude, you're being hypocritical because you shouldn't be.
But can he just be transparent? Like, what are the conversations he's having?
Do you feel like he's dancing around
Absolutely.
it?
Like, what is his role? Like, I don't. I've actually been asking some of my friends because I'm not that much. I mean, I love hip hop, but I feel like I'm not up to the current affairs and what's going on.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is his role?
Yeah.
And like, literally, nobody has told me like what his actual role.
It's a bit of politics too. You'll just find out, especially with whatever politician you're.
So it's a tokenism.
Yeah.
Like, let's get the black guy into the white circle.
And on top of that, like, even I feel like you have hope, and I like that you have hope. Whatever lens you look at positive or negative, it's also recognizing, like, this is happening. This is about to happen going forward. And I guess we'll find out what his intention is. It's the truth always comes out anyways.
Well, the funniest is it's like, so they got Shakira and J-Lo doing the halftime show, and they're like, oh, now the halftime show is giving, Spanish artists a chance to like perform. And I'm like, I don't know if like that's the move that's being made. Like, I just feel like it's at that point, it's probably just eye candy focused, right? Like,
but
I don't know.
They can use that platform however they want. Like, look at Beyonce when they gave her the platform to be able to perform.
Yeah.
It really depends. But then also they may be possibly playing it safe as well. Whatever artists you do, think of how the music those artists put out already anyways. Yeah. Is it controversial? Is this activism in any way whatsoever?
Who would you like to see perform at the Super Bowl?
Oh God.
Oh wow.
Okay, like with a woke lens, or with just like
okay. I mean, because Super Bowl, come on, like it's like
that's so hard. I don't even know.
I would like to see Jay-Z do it because I think he has the catalog to do it. I think from a Super Bowl standpoint, who should do it? Because even this year, I'm not like super excited about it.
Can I just say Justin Timberlake's performance was so bad?
Yeah, it was not good. I had high expectations.
I had high expectations for that one. I was very disappointed. For sure.
I don't know who would want to do it. I feel like the Super Bowl halftime show is just
some Toronto artists, a bunch of local Toronto
Drake.
artists.
I want Drake to do it.
Yeah.
Did they ever do like P. Diddy, Mace, and like that?
I think Diddy's done it like as a guest for someone else. I think he might have been one of those like Katy Perry years or something like that, where he just came out and started dancing.
Katy Perry's, let's have a moment there. Missy Elliott, when she came out,
it was dope.
I died.
Yeah,
I actually think I had some level of like I don't know, something happened to my body. I'm like, oh my God, and I've watched it several times since. So I would totally love to see like Missy Elliott, Timbaland, Genuine.
Oh, he just shows up.
Child. I feel like if they were to get back together again and they came out, I would love that.
So Miss Elliott won like the MTV VMA like Vanguard Award. Killed killed it.
That
like
performance.
And Missy's pushing like 48 years old, and she's killing it.
She's a true creative.
I have a whole I think I have 24 sketches of a collection for if I was to ever do another collection, and it's the misdemeanor collection.
Actually, wow.
Yeah.
Is it all like blow up suits?
I wouldn't even I'll show you it. Like I'll have you and your wife will come over one day, and I'll show you the sketches. They're so dope.
Yo,
and I'm like, this is what
cool.
I'd want to wear. But yeah, it's like way back playback.
I'm down for the shiny suits to come back. I think the shiny suits that Diddy and Macy's to rock were very underrated.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, that's actually, I kind of do like that about fashion. That everything does come back. So if you just take care of your stuff and hope that you have good taste the whole time, that, you know, it'll you get to use it again.
That you're on the right side of the editorials.
I remember like when I was in high school, I was wearing like quadruple XL.
Yeah.
And like some of those pieces now are back, but they're more like the fitted type. And I'm like, I wish I just bought my size. I could still wear it. But no, it's hilarious. Fashion's hilarious. We should do a show on that too. Anything else about Kanye West? Where do you guys see him going after this album? Like, do you see this sort of religious Kanye West kind of living on for the next little bit? Do you think he'll just continually reinvent himself? Do you think one day Jay-Z's going to call him up and they're going to piece it out and Kanye just all of a sudden becomes happier again? I don't know. Like, what do you guys think?
I could see him have a church, like a physical space.
I think he is. Did you hear about his dome houses that he was trying to make?
Yeah.
He was trying to make dome houses in Calabasas in California, and then apparently they said no. And he talks about that in this interview about how he was kind of using it as a play on words. He's like, oh, they were trying to stop my dome. And then he's like trying to refer to his dome as being his head or something like that. So it's like they're trying to stop his thinking in a way. Like it was like a weird double entendre which he was trying to put there. But he was trying to create these dome houses, which apparently would have been like revolutionary housing that would have been affordable but also energy efficient. I don't know.
I think with Kanye, it's hard to predict what he will or won't do in the future. Like, however, one thing I think will be a constant is I do believe his family will influence whatever choices he makes here on out for sure. Like, for example, like the Church album, like the way he's changed into a family man and focusing his creativity in that direction. I do think that's a heavy influence, but also being married to Kim Kardashian, who is a businesswoman, an entrepreneur, looking at every different angle and avenue to make money. I mean, dome houses, everything he does, I think it's going to be in a way that's beneficial for like his family, but also financially as well. Why not?
Yeah.
However he executes that.
I would love to see Kanye actually integrate more of that kind of spiritual and learning and that growth in his art. I actually really do like it. I'm not going to lie. Do I like his album and him doing it through Jesus? Probably not. Necessarily. It's not my thing. Yeah. It probably is someone's, but certainly not mine. But that idea of using or having wellness and goodness influence your art, I'm feeling that.
Yeah, I think I'll always be a Kanye fan no matter what. Like I just feel like he's always, because when he came out with College Dropout, I was in high school, and I kid you not, when I saw him wearing like golf shirts and like looking very preppy, it was the first rapper that actually like spoke to me, that like was like, hey, he's not a gangster, like he didn't have a gangster background, and I don't have a gangster background, and I felt like I could relate, especially when he was doing songs about working at the Gap and like watching time fly by. Like it was the first hip hop rapper that I felt, oh, this could be one of my friends, like that I go to high school with. And I feel like ever since then I've just always been a fan, and I think even now, like I did buy the album because I like am a fan, and he's like the one guy that I'll always support, and I hope he continues to create. Like I never wanted to see him stop, and I do get somewhat of I do get some excitement when I hear about a new album or a new song, but will I be head over heels or like just totally like this is my album of the year, I'm gonna just listen to this religiously? I think that phase is probably over. Like I think he'll always be that guy that I'll always go see live, but I'll always go see him live for his old stuff.
Did you listen to Chance's new album?
I hated it.
Every single one?
It was not good.
Oh my goodness, I liked at least 2 songs.
The new Chance the Rapper album was not good.
Really?
I like Ballin' Flossie, and I like this. Oh damn!
Hot Shower is the only good song.
And you liked some on Kanye's album? I question your taste in music now.
Water was good. That was the one that I was like,
Hot Water was a banger. Everything else was, I don't know what it was. It was just my brother. It was trash. It wasn't Coloring Book. It wasn't Coloring Book. Like that Coloring Book was
for
his
me.
classic
It's never
album.
been a full album that I love of Chance.
It was too long. That was an album made for streaming.
There was, I don't know. I don't even know if I've listened to every song on it, but there are a couple that I found that I do like, but I've never really, it's hard for me to fall in love with the whole album.
Actually, Reggie, question for you. You mentioned that you didn't listen to you never knew Kanye actually had an album out till I emailed you about it. What are you listening? Like, what are you listening to nowadays? Like, are you reverting back to the older stuff? Like, is there any new artists that you check out? Like, how do you hear about new music?
It's so bad. It's like I'm going way back. Like, I'm listening to the Beatles a lot.
Really? Good for you.
And like, I love listening to the opera.
Yeah.
And then I have like a YouTube premium playlist called Punjabi Gangster Girl Run Mix.
Yeah.
And then that just has like the bangers in there. And so it's like Bhangra, but then also like the gangster rap. And so it's like all over the place.
Yeah.
Like, and then a lot of my friends, I guess they're like kind of hipsters or whatever. So like they introduced me to a lot of music that I'm like, oh my God, I love this song by, Angus and Julia Stone. Like, so yeah, it's all over the place.
Yeah.
I'm a very moody person because I am a creative, but my creativity does not allow me to express myself. My creativity is like helping people do what they need to do.
Yeah.
And so with the moodiness that comes inside me, like I feel like my music just goes from like classical, like Mozart, all the way to like No More Pain by Tupac.
That's cool.
But doesn't music, it connects with you on mood, on feeling. 100%. That's what it does.
Yesterday I was listening to Punjabi music, like not Punjabi, like Dil Se.
Yo, Dil Se's a banger. Oh my God.
I was like, yo, man, this is so good.
Yo,
Ramen.
the bass on that? Ooh.
I don't listen to Punjabi music that much anymore.
Really?
No, yeah.
Wow.
I know.
Like I don't know anything about like the new stuff. But the old stuff, I'm like, yo, what is this? Satinder Bindra Kya?
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Bindraki?
Yeah, like the old ones. I'm like, that's cool.
The classic, the more folk sounding stuff.
Yeah.
The more like nitty gritty. They just recorded it using like a talk boy and just killed it.
What do you? So you don't listen to Punjabi music? You listen to the Bollywood stuff?
I do but I don't even listen to that much anymore. Like in undergrad, when I was the captain of the Bhangra team, so I had to listen to Punjabi music all the time. Then
Gil KG.
I just completely flushed it out of my system. I barely ever listen to Punjabi now, and when it does play, I always usually want to get it changed. But nobody's on that vibe with me. I'm the only person. I really I listen to all sorts of. I really like. Some of my favorite like genres, I would say, as in mood-wise, not like genre as in like jazz or hip-hop or anything. Mood-wise, I really like breakup songs a lot.
Really?
I really do.
I was so not expecting that.
Do you like that new Selena Gomez track that's becoming really big?
No, really nitty-gritty, authentic ones. Like the ones where you're like, just feel like her. Like, not only breakup songs, like just sad songs. I really like
Big
them.
Girls Don't Cry by Fergie? Like, is that your jam?
Or like Katy Perry?
No, like...
Roar?
No, like, okay, this is not a breakup song, but it's a sad song. Like Johnny Cash, Hurt. So good.
Oh, crazy.
So good.
Have you heard the original?
The ones with the lyrics that like really like hit your soul.
Did you just have a breakup, or is it like...
No, those are my favorite automatically because they're the most authentic, I feel like, in music.
That's like, but you know what? I'm the same way. Like I've always liked neo soul. Like neo soul's my stuff. Like even as I was packing up, I was moving.
Yeah, blues, Nina Simone. Yeah. I really, that's my favorite in general when it comes to like mood wise when you're connecting to music. But otherwise, I listen to everything. I really listen to.
Me too.
I really like the 60s a lot. I really like jazz. I really like soul. I really like R&B. I like hip hop. I listen to some rap, but I like very chill rap vibes. The frequency of music when it's like there's a certain tempo that just doesn't sit well with me. So house, I can't really do it.
Really?
Yeah.
Not it like just a good deep house
puts
record?
me in a bad mood. And like it just puts me in a bad space. I just don't enjoy it. So, but Chance, like his music is really like I like that kind of music.
It's just okay. I don't dislike Chance. Like I think he's a good rapper. The album just wasn't for me. Yeah, you know what? If you put my iPhone on shuffle, it's random.
Mine's so random.
Like I'll go from like a deep house track all the way to real hip hop, all the way to some neo soul, and then there'll be like a Casey Musgraves record on there.
You know, it's interesting that you put genre with your mood.
Yeah.
And now I'm thinking about mine because I was like, man, I guess I'm not moody. I think it's like the different hats we wear.
Yeah.
So when I'm like gangster, it's gangster rap. If it's like Vernon Raji from the Apple Orchard, like Shania Twain and like Tracy Chapman. So I think it's like the different personality.
Yeah.
Not trying to sound like a crazy person, but when I need to be like a boss, then it's like Anna Tijoux and like, you got to just like, so it's like it's the different relation, or I guess the different roles I have to play will incite like different music.
I got my neo soul chill wave stuff for like when I'm at work.
Yeah.
And then I got my like fired up like.
My fired up is
what is it?
What's her name? She sings Juice. She sings that recently.
Janelle Monáe.
Come on. She's like my favorite person. I can't believe I can't think of her name right now. I love boss women in the music industry. Huh? Lizzo.
Oh,
yes.
Lizzo.
That's boss.
Because Janelle Monáe has a song called Juice too.
Oh, does she?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Janelle Monáe is dope.
She's so sick. Yeah.
I'm obsessed with this Toronto artist right now, actually, and I might not be able to say her name. Currently, I've been listening to her tracks a lot.
Jessie Reyez?
No, I like her. Jessie Reyez. Her songs, some of them
she lives
are
in Brampton.
If you listen to the words, like there's this one song of Jessie Reyez called Gatekeeper, and it's about basically the gatekeepers of the music industry and sexual abuse.
It was a fantastic song.
Wow.
Yeah,
I've actually never heard that.
That one made me
that
cry.
kind of stuff.
Really?
Yeah, that's the kind of music I live
up with
for.
an interview too, and it was like pretty heartbreaking.
Good for her though. Good for her for putting that out there.
And it's intense. It's an intense song, and the lyrics, and she has this other song I think called Shutter Island. And see, you know.
As colorblind photographer, like, that's my jam.
Yeah, it's an intense song.
She's like, let me tell you how I feel about Kanye's new album, please.
He hates it. He told me.
Music like that, where musicians you can hear in the song their heart and soul being poured into, that's the best kind of music to listen to.
That's why I was a big fan of like Eminem's Marshall Mathers LP, because he was angry, but you knew why he was angry, because he just, his life was what was happening at that moment, right? And we talked about Eminem last week, but I think I'm the same way. Like, I think my music is really dependent on my mood.
Yeah, for sure.
Which, if we want to kind of close off the segment, I don't know if I'll ever be in a mood to hear Jesus is King, like, unless I have to.
I probably won't ever listen to it again, so thank you for introducing it. But yeah, that's a hard pass.
Oh, okay. Just straight up.
This artist, I don't want to say her name wrong. I accidentally played the song.
Snow Allegra is awesome.
She's awesome.
She's also, but she's not from Toronto. She's not from Toronto, but she loves Toronto.
She's not from here, and she has a song called Toronto. I just thought, I just assumed.
To me, like, she gives me like Amy Winehouse vibes with her voice, but she's completely different. I miss Amy too. Amy was my girl. Did you watch the Amy doc? I didn't, but I want to see it. I've missed it.
Watch
it.
Amy
was my girl.
Have samosa and like things that will make you feel good.
Samosas.
I'm now just eyeing this dessert in front of me, and this
why don't you eat it? That's why it's here.
It's not samosa, and that looks like a samosa, but it isn't. It's like a dumpling, but a sweet dumpling.
It's something. What time is it? It's 6:50.
Yeah.
We have 10 minutes. Peeps, this was a lot of fun. This is cool. Yeah. Any last thoughts on anything that we've talked about today? Or we just plug your socials.
Sexism is real. It happens all the time. This isn't a surprise. So the first topic that you brought up, the first question you asked is, are you surprised? We are not. And we condemn that kind of act. We need to speak up for everyone, for sure. And when you see this or you get pushed on this, it's hard to find that voice. But when you find your voice, make sure you are loud and clear. What's the next topic we talked about?
We talked about vulnerability on social.
Yeah.
Totally summarizing this beautifully. When
it comes with social media, be vulnerable. There's nothing wrong with being vulnerable, but if your energy can allow it.
Can I say something about vulnerability?
Yeah, please.
I only just realized about half a year ago that I don't know how to be vulnerable.
Really?
It's hard.
I don't. I actually don't know the mathematics behind being vulnerable. I probably don't know how to be vulnerable because I think there's a math behind it. Probably.
There's a conditioning behind it.
So wait, when you say that, do you mean like you don't know when to turn it on?
I don't even know how to do it. Let me give you an example, which was the massive indicator for me. My best friend was like, she cries all the time. She's one of those Goria that just oh, that tree. It's like, she's such a beautiful soul. And she asked me to be her bridesmaid.
Oh, that's nice.
And she's crying and sobbing. And in my heart of hearts, I was like, she's about to pop the question, ask me to be her bridesmaid. So I was just kind of waiting for it all to end. And I was like, what a saga. Like, she's really going hard.
Yeah.
And then she kind of looked up at me. I'm like, oh, shit, I got to, oh, shoot. Oh, I slipped. I did so good.
You slipped.
But I was like, oh, shoot. I need to like cry or something. And then I actually was like trying to like cry like Cameron Diaz in The Holiday. And I was like, tsunamis, world, like, you know, hunger. And like, I was trying to think of things that would make me cry, and it just would not happen. And so then I just basically put my hands like under my eyes, and I was like, oh, I love you so much. And then I had to like, and then when I was walking away from that, because like, you know, you just like kiss and make up, and then she went to her office, and I was like going back to my next meeting, and I literally was like, oh my God, there's something wrong here.
Did you?
Wow.
And my sister, I told her this story. She was like, yeah, you suck at it. And I'm like, because like when I'm like angry or something's like upsetting, I usually like talk about it as if I'm writing an essay. Perhaps like journalism has something to do with it. So I'll be like, so you said this, and this elicited this response. First, this. Secondly, this. And that's followed by third. And then I'm like, therefore, please don't do it again.
Yeah,
and
that's like, you have it built like an essay.
So I feel like I'm like trying to learn how to be vulnerable, and music has a role to play in it. Like I'll listen to like sappy songs and like try to be more, not girly, but try to be a bit more feminine.
It's like when I listen to Drake, like just to get. Really
I need to listen to this guy because everyone's talking about it. I'm like, I
think the most emotional album Drake has ever put out is probably Take Care. It's my favorite album. Like favorite Drake album. It's if you ever look at Drake's catalog.
So is Drake your favorite artist?
No.
Who's your favorite artist?
Jay-Z. 100%.
Oh, you said that.
So who's your favorite artist?
She's gonna choose someone.
Yeah, just say it. Honestly, your absolute favorite out of everybody is the most awesome.
Jazzy B. Vancouver, come on, represent.
Doesn't have to be alive. Whoever's your favorite.
Anthony Hagarty is my favorite artist.
Yeah. Okay.
Bar none. He has a band. It's called Anthony and the Johnsons. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. It's so good. Yeah. So he's probably my favorite artist.
How would you describe the sound? Like indie, a little bit.
He's very like. I don't know if you like Bjork.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so like I would say a little bit kind of like that, but like he identifies as a man and a woman. And so his voice is this kind of eerie, haunting, beautiful. It almost sounds like he should sing all the Disney songs.
Really?
Yeah, like it's truly stunning. And when he's performing with his band, it to me is like a very honest and vulnerable and raw human experience.
That's awesome.
Despite, you know, the musicality of like what they do.
Yeah.
So I would say him.
Yeah. And yours is Jay-Z?
Jay-Z, hip-hop wise, rock band. It's a toss between Zeppelin and the Beatles. Deep
you have
house.
Genre favorites.
I do. I have genre favorites.
You don't have an ultimate.
Like my go-tos, like hip-hop is Jay, Nas, Kanye, Kendrick, anyways, Biggie, and then like deep house, it's like Armin van Helden. Like I have artists that I go to, but Jay-Z's number one, like hands down. And honestly, like Song Cry was one of the first songs that I heard, and I was like, man, this is an emotional song. Like he's talking about breaking a girl's feelings, and like it was super real. So who's yours? You're going to say someone West Coast, like Tupac or somebody, right?
No,
she's going to obviously like show up with one of the good ones. So. I'm back.
No, my favorite, like ultimate, like if I had to pick one person, because I've thought on this a lot, because I like so many different kinds of music, who I'll always go back to till the day I die. Like I feel like I can imagine myself being like a super old person and putting this person on is Louis Armstrong.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Lauryn Hill.
I love her too, don't get me wrong, but I love her.
But Lauryn Hill only for Miseducation.
Yeah, Miseducation. That was my first CD. Yeah.
Right now I love Georgia Smith. She's amazing. Like I like her tone, and Summer Walker, what she's been putting with music. That's newer what I'm trying to pay attention to now. Yeah. But ultimate that runs like through all time, that I can imagine myself being old and actually playing songs to like my grandkids would be like, you need to listen to like La Vie en Rose. You need to listen or Louis Armstrong's tracks with like Ella Fitzgerald. Yeah.
I feel that
have
way.
their album at home that I'll just put it on just to like feel good sometimes.
I feel that way about Sinatra. Like Sinatra is like, if I remember having people over and I'm like, oh, what should the playlist be? Just throw Sinatra on. It gets everyone in the fun.
Sinatra makes me feel like Christmas, so I like hold out. And whenever December rolls around, I'm like, Sinatra time, and then that's when I pull out like the vanilla and the cinnamon like candles and things like that. So that like Sinatra to me like evokes a lot of love.
Awesome.
And Bob Marley.
Of course.
Oh yeah, Bob Marley. Yeah, he's up there.
There's so many good artists. It's hard to say.
It's really hard.
Also, that's why I boiled it down to Louis Armstrong.
I think we're running out of time. I wish we could go for another hour because we probably could have. But before we do, let's just quickly go around the table, let people know where they connect with you. Raji, let's begin with you. Just explain to the people what Willendorf is and what you do. I should have asked you that at 5 o'clock, but it's okay.
I was like, oh, now I'm like thinking about who my favorite female artist is. And I'm like, Aaliyah? Who's that? Okay.
It's hard, right? Alicia Keys, I love her too.
True, Amy Winehouse. Like she's...
Oh, amazing.
So we clearly have not ended the last segment. So, sorry, what was the question?
What's Willendorf and how can people connect with you?
Okay, Willendorf is a statue.
Nice.
30,000 years old. She's dope. I really love her. And then when I decided to launch my own firm, which is a cultural planning and design firm, I wanted it to be loud and clear that it is led by women, not at the cost of like not having male like allies and collaborators, but yeah, we're going to be having like a very matriarchal like lens in the work that we do. So for 3 years I operated with no business name, and Willendorf was like my Wi-Fi name, my everything, and I was like, oh, dope, I'm going to call my company Willendorf. So that's how it came to be.
Awesome.
So does that answer the question?
It does. And where can people connect with you if they want to connect with Raji Aujla?
They can't. Like I don't have a website yet. It's like under construction, but it'll be up there soon. And like LinkedIn, I don't go on. So right now it's like not so good, the situation.
So you only have this radio show and podcast.
So like connect with Nav, and then Nav will put us in touch.
Yes. Yeah, DM me and
like
I'll suss you out.
I feel like I could say like Instagram, like because I do have it, but I feel like people like message me and then I forgot that there's like a section of messages that are unread. Because,
you leave people unread? Oh my God.
Yeah, so it's become like panic. So my therapist said not to do things that cause panic. So Instagram, I'm like, okay, so that's going to be my like
that's okay.
blanket excuse for not being good on Instagram.
It's fine. Yeah. I actually, you're the first person on the show to not plug any way to connect with you, which is great. I had one person a few weeks ago only plug their LinkedIn, and I was like, wow, that's really professional. Gil KG, where can people connect with you and also hear you and get bodied by your rhymes?
Should I drop one?
Yes.
We have a minute. Can we go a little bit over? No? We have
1 minute. Girl, you can do it.
Let me see the first thing that pulls up.
Before she does that, if you want to connect with New Theory Radio, it's at New Theory Radio on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. If you want to connect with me on Instagram, it's at Nav Nanwa. If you want to connect with me on Twitter, it's at Nanwa. Gil KG, take us home.
Okay. I don't want to be a sad nose, but okay. This is the first one. I said the first one, okay? All right. Energy as powerful as mine. I have to learn to keep it in check. My words hold weight. They can cause a cosmic effect. Ooh. Brothers, be wary of my emotions. My resilience can move mountains. Sisters, absorb all my kindness. Drink from my love fountain. Believe in all the wisdom I say. It's been taught to me from lifetimes to date. Suppressing my inner spirit caused it to lash out until I finally erased all of my unreasonable doubt. Energy as powerful as mine. I have to keep it in check.
At American University, we don't just hope for change, we create it. We don't just dream of a better world, we make it a reality. With a graduate degree from AU, you'll access expert faculty and connections throughout DC to develop skills and experience to turn your passion into purpose. And that purpose can make all the difference in your career. Discover the difference a degree makes at american.edu/grad school.